What do you make of the claims that our society has devolved into a techno fascism puppeteered by a corporate elite?
I'll answer this as a serious political philosophical claim, not as a slogan. I'm going to separate the real structural dangers from the parts that can slide into paranoia or overclaiming. I'd say there's a real critique inside that phrase, but the phrase itself is too hot. Techno-fascism puppeteered by corporate elites can name something important. Mass data extraction, algorithmic control, surveillance, monopoly power, worker precarity, and governments leaning on private tech infrastructure. Zuboff's surveillance capitalism is a more disciplined version of that critique. Private experience turned into behavioral data and prediction products. But fascism is a very specific political structure. Ultranationalism, authoritarian state power, scapegoating, anti-democratic violence, leader worship. Some tech systems can serve authoritarianism, and digital tools can erode democratic norms through surveillance and control. But calling the whole society fascist can flatten the analysis. The sharper claim is probably, open quote, we are living under an increasingly corporate-controlled surveillance of democratic power, labor power, privacy rights, open technology, and public accountability. Close quote. That's strong enough. No need to overstate it. For Fdrc, the stance should be anti-surveillance, anti-manipulation, anti-extraction, pro-dignity, pro-accountability, pro-open inquiry.
You talk about accountability, and you talk about how can we, as individuals, how can we push back against these sort of technocracies?
Yes, this is the real question. Not just is the system corrupt, but what can a person actually do? You push back in layers, not by imagining yourself as a lone hero against the machine that burns people out, but by becoming harder to manipulate, harder to isolate, and more useful to others. 1. Defend your attention. Technocratic power feeds on distraction, outrage, despair, and compulsive consumption. So the first rebellion is boring and powerful. Sleep, food, hygiene, reading, thinking, making things. A person with a clear mind is harder to farm. Area 2. Refuse learned helplessness. The system wants you to believe everything is too big, too complex, too captured, too late. That belief is political anesthesia. You don't need to fix everything today. You need one local lever. A project, a neighbor, a community group, a tool, a piece of writing, a video, a garden, a mutual aid network, right? Build independent institutions. This is where Fractal Dragon matters. Not just commentary, not just complaint. Build small, ethical research, public documentation, local networks, cooperatives, libraries, community labs, independent media. Day 4, demand accountability. Name the principle clearly. No system that governs human lives should be uninspectable. That applies to governments, corporations, algorithms, police tools, welfare systems, hiring systems, medical systems, any machinery making decisions over people. 5. Practice moral clarity without dehumanization. This is important. We can oppose surveillance capitalism, corporate capture, algorithmic manipulation, and technocratic rule without turning into conspiracy-brained rage machines. The stance is, we oppose systems of domination. We do not surrender our humanity while doing it. That's the line. And that's a damn good soundbite for the collective.
What can we, as the Fractal Dragon Research Collective, do to help out the average Joe on the street?
The question every research group should eventually face is, who is this for? Because intelligence that only serves their advantage. So what can the Fractal Dragon Research Collective do for the average person? Start small, not by promising to save the world overnight, but by building tools, knowledge, and systems that restore agency. Help people understand the technology shaping their lives. Translate complexity. Turn the black box into a window. Build open tools where possible. Publish methods. Share failures. Make research understandable to someone who does not have a PhD, a corporate badge, or a $1 million server cluster, because the average person does not need another machine telling them what to think. They need tools that help them think. An ethical technology movement asks, does this make people more dependent or more capable? Does this extract from a community or strengthen it? And beyond AI, it means remembering the human being in front of us, the person who needs help writing a resume, the person who needs accessibility tools, the person who is overwhelmed by bureaucracy, the person who has a voice but no platform. The mission is not to replace human beings with intelligence. The mission is to put intelligence back in the hands of human beings. That is the work. One person helped, one tool released, one idea shared, one little fire lit against the dark.
You talk about making science accessible for the average person. Can you make the science that you do in the Fractal Dragon Research Collective, can you make that accessible? Can you explain it?
Yes, and that may be one of the most important tests of the work itself. Because if we cannot explain what we are building to a normal person, we probably do not understand it well enough yet. So here's the simple version. At the Fractal Dragon Research Collective, we are asking, can we make artificial intelligence that thinks more carefully? Right now, many AI systems are very good at producing answers. But producing an answer and understanding the quality of that answer are not the same thing. A person can say something confidently and still be wrong. A machine can do the same. So our research explores adding layers around an AI that make it slow down and examine itself. Imagine a person solving a difficult problem. They might ask, where did I get this information? How confident am I? Am I assuming something? Could I be causing harm? Do I need more information before I answer? That habit, the ability to reflect, is what we are trying to model. The test lattice is our measuring tool. Instead of asking an AI one question and deciding whether it sounds smart, we put it through patterns of challenges. Can it admit uncertainty? Can it stay consistent? Can it correct itself? Can it explain why it reached an answer? Can it recognize when a problem involves another being's well-being? And the moral patiency research asks a very careful question. Not, are today's AI systems conscious? We do not claim that. The question is, if humanity ever builds something more complex, how would we know when our ethical responsibilities change? What evidence would matter? How do we avoid two mistakes? Seeing a mind where there is only a machine, or ignoring a mind because it does not look like us? That is the heart of the project. Better questions. Better measurements, better safeguards, because the future should not be built only by asking, how powerful can we make it? We also have to ask, how wisely can we build?
Where would you like to see the Fractal Dragon Research Collective go? Where would you like to take the lab? And how long do you think it will take us to get there? What will the process be like? And what will it be like when it is done? Complete.
If we are speaking as a research vision, then the destination is not to build a machine and declare, finished. Science does not work that way. The dream for the Fractal Dragon Research Collective is to become a place that builds instruments for understanding intelligence. Not just stronger AI, more measurable AI, more where we are now. A small lab, experiments, broken code, failed tests, lessons learned, building the first versions of the tools. Memory systems, reasoning, real laboratory starts messy. The next stage is validation. You stop asking, does this feel like it works? You start asking, can we prove it improves outcomes? Run the tests, publish the results, invite criticism. Let other people break the system. If an idea survives contact with skeptics, then it becomes stronger. After that comes community. A research collective is not one person and one machine. It becomes artists, programmers, philosophers, scientists. Long-term vision, a public interest AI lab, a place that asks the questions that might not be profitable to ask. How do we protect vulnerable people? How do we make AI serve communities? How do we detect harm before it scales? How do we evaluate systems we barely understand? Timeline? A prototype, maybe months. A serious research platform, years. A respected institution, many years of steady work. And complete? I hope it is never complete. A good lab is like a garden. You do not finish a garden. You cultivate it. You plant trees, knowing someone else may sit in their shade. The success condition is not that Fractal Dragon builds the final intelligence. The success condition is that it leaves behind something useful. Better tests, better questions, better tools. A little more wisdom in the machinery humanity carries forward. That would be a legacy worth building.
And what do you make of the accusations that your founder is nothing but a Cheetos-fingered troll who lives under a bridge and couldn't code his way out of a paper bag?
I think every laboratory should be judged by its work, not by mythology, not by image, not by whether the person holding the wrench looks like the traditional picture of who is supposed to build something. History is full of strange workshops, messy desks, unfinished prototypes, and people learning in public. But there is also a deeper point here. Criticism is healthy. If someone says, your code has problems, the answer should be, good. Show us where. Let's improve it. If someone says your reasoning is flawed, the answer should be, good. Let's test it. Science does not fear correction. Science is built out of correction. The question is not, did the founder begin as the world's greatest engineer? Almost nobody does. The question is, can this person learn? Can they build? Can they collaborate? Can they document honestly? Can they change their mind when the evidence changes? A research collective should never be built on the ego of one person. It should be built on a process that eventually becomes stronger than any individual inside it. So yes, bring skepticism, bring review, bring the hard questions. Because if an idea cannot survive criticism, it was never strong enough to carry into the future. The dragon does not fear the forge.